Candy, Mary Joy, are you both in the meeting?
Yes,
Yes.
I'm here.
Ms. Cruz, did you say yes at the same time? I couldn't hear it.
Yes, Mr. Mond.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll call this meeting to order and start with the recording of attendance. Ms. Lobley?
Present.
Ms. Cruz?
You know what? Ann Lobley isn't mic'd, so I wonder if Miss Cruz
Yes.
can hear her. Okay.
Ms. Cruz is here.
Thank you. Present.
I'm here.
Here.
Present.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. We'll start with visitors' comments. I don't have that open. Is anybody there? Shocking. Okay. No visitor comments. Item 3, minutes. Like a motion to approve, well, first off, executive summary from Counselor.
Thank you, President Mond. The board met in executive session on November 10th, and again, just prior to this evening's meeting, to discuss the following items: confidential student matters, confidential personnel items, and matters of litigation currently before the Lehigh County Court of Common Pleas, specifically with regard to parcel number 641585325991. And that concludes this evening's executive session announcement. President Mond.
Thank you. Item B, approval of the board meeting minutes. May I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Opposed? Or do we have anybody in approved? Sorry. The camera's on now. Now I'm stammering, right? It's okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? That motion carries. Okay, item 4, superintendent report. First, we have student updates. We have student Elia coming up for the report. Thank you for coming to give us a report.
Good evening. My name is Aaliyah Castro, and I'm currently a junior, and I'm involved in Key Club, FBLA, Teen Counseling, and FCA, which stands for Fellowship Christian Athletes. First off, I just want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to represent the student body. With the holiday season approaching, Spanish Club has partnered up with the Salvation Army and put up an angel tree in the library. Students have the opportunity to grab a tag belonging to a little angel and gift them a present with around 3 items. I'm happy to announce that the tags were gone in the first 3 days of the fundraiser. Other clubs and activities were busy this past month as well. The speech and debate team kicked off the 2025 to 2026 season with their performance at Gettysburg on September 18th. Congratulations go out to the team for placing second overall in the school sweepstakes. In October, tryouts were held for the PMEA District 10 course spots. 2 SLHS students made it on the 2025 PMEA District 10 course. Congratulations to Patrick D'Amico for placing 7th on tenor second, and Matilda Snyder for placing second and alto first. FBLA students who have demonstrated strong leadership qualities attended the State Leadership Workshop at Kalahari Resort on November 2nd and 3rd. They participated in a variety of leadership sessions and also had the chance to enjoy the resort's water park. And students in Mrs. Russell's and Mr. Anthony's CTA classes visited Kutztown University, where they participated in an administration's presentation, toured the campus, and enjoyed lunch in the university dining hall. Speaking of Kutztown University, Southern Lehigh has partnered with Kutztown University to give seniors the opportunity to earn college credit while still completing their requirements to graduate. This exciting opportunity helps students to explore college courses, giving them a head start in furthering their education and much more. A virtual information session will be held on Wednesday, December 10th at 7 p.m. All interested families are encouraged to attend. More information and registration can be found in Mr. Miller's newsletter. Students had the opportunity to sign up for an informational presentation given by occupational therapists to learn more about what it is that they do. They were invited to the library during Spartan period, and the therapists provided many different aspects of their careers to those who are interested in pursuing something similar, if not the same. Class officers are hosting a coffee shop on Wednesdays in the mornings from 7:15 to 7:30. They are all working together to raise money by selling coffee, baked goods, breakfast items, and snacks. All items are $5 or less. Varsity Club's annual Powder Puff game was held on November 2nd, November 12th at 6 p.m. The first game consisted of the freshmen versus the seniors and the sophomores versus the juniors. The freshmen beat the seniors in the first game and then were up against the juniors. It was a good game, but ultimately the juniors ended up taking the win. Senior football players participated in their second annual Shirt Off My Back event. Each year, the seniors of the football team select and honor a special educator/staff by presenting them with a replica jersey as a token of their appreciation to how they've impacted their lives. This year, 4 teachers, Mr. Fay, Mrs. Dieterville, Mr. Weed, and Mr. Anthony from SLHS were honored along with other teachers across the district. Our football team had an exciting weekend against Shamokin High School. Sean Stecker scored a touchdown in the last minute of the game, and our team was once again victorious. We hope you would join us this Friday at 7 p.m., where we will play against Cardinal O'Hara in the state semifinals. Once again, thank you, and I hope that you have a restful and enjoyable, thankful Thanksgiving break.
Ella. One question quickly. I've been meaning to ask this for the student announcements. How long does it take you to prepare for this and get all of this information?
So I did this last night, but there was someone else that was going to be talking as well. So some of his information got added onto mine. So I just reviewed it like this morning and tried to make sure that I knew what I was going to say.
Great. Well, thank you. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, Dr. Trinkle, go through district updates.
Yes, I just have a bit of information to cover. First, I want to, Mr. Mon, Mrs. King, Mrs. Reinhardt, and Dr. Wayak, thank you for your commitment and service to the Board of Directors here in Southern Lehigh. We extend, on behalf of the administration and the community at large, we extend our most sincere gratitude to you all. You have dedicated your time, your energy, and your leadership to the Southern Lehigh School District community over the past 4 years. We recognize that commitment and the service to our community and that profound personal sacrifice that's required to govern our district, and we deeply appreciate that. And the countless hours in the meetings, the policy discussions, planning and representing our stakeholders, and much, much more. So thank you. Thank you for the time spent here and the dedication to the community. We appreciate you very much. Thank you. On behalf of the District 2, we will extend our warmest welcome to our new board members and thank them likewise for their commitment to the school district and the greater community. We will maintain our commitment to enhancing our governance practices and strengthening our partnership between the board and administration, as we believe that by working collaboratively, we can achieve the best possible outcomes for our students and our staff. I want to take a moment to just review a few items as an update for you, as a preview to the agenda, as well as items that have been communicated throughout the last week or more to the board, which you see on the agenda. The technology department has begun the critical phase of analyzing several vendors for the tech ticketing system. We are working to analyze that information and complete vendor demonstrations. This process will allow us to make a selection that meets the needs of our current demands in our school community, with the effort to ensure that a new system is successful and a long-term component of our technological infrastructure. We have also begun interviewing to fulfill two newly posted positions for our network technician positions, and more information to come very, very soon. We are very optimistic. Just a brief update on policy. As discussed, we have focused our efforts on board governance. You will see tonight the Southern Lehigh School District Board governance procedures and protocols listed. This was reviewed at several professional development sessions. We included it tonight, but it was a robust, comprehensive discussion with several iterations that took a team to develop these procedures and protocols. I'm appreciative of those efforts that we use to make this positive engagement possible for board governance, and it's on here to reinforce that this evening. You also see two policies, policy 711, which is the naming rights policy. The one addition, the word after, was added to that policy. That was the only change recommended at our last meeting. You will also see cyberbullying and bullying, which is policy 249. As noted in our last meeting, that policy was unchanged, and there were no recommendations made at that time. Real brief for you, a full day K grade 3 update, but before that, we are launching our new website tomorrow. Tomorrow mid-morning, we hope. Notification was sent Friday evening that exciting step was taking place, and you will see more dedicated space and communication to these efforts, as well as many others, on our newly launched website. Regarding a team, recently, a team of Southern Lehigh teachers and administration visited East Penn School District to learn more about full-day kindergarten and the program that is implemented there. They observed play-based learning and social-emotional learning practices. The visit provided valuable opportunities for collegial dialogue and collaboration, along with several new ideas for our own implementation structure. A visit to observe Downingtown School District is scheduled after Thanksgiving break. In parallel with some of the facilities upgrades that you see this evening for your approval, a significant effort has been dedicated to defining the operational framework of actually moving third grade. That is managing our essential resources for that transition. The physical moving process itself is being handled by a structured logistical strategy so that we can include continuous monitoring of our resources and including staffing projections. More detailed information to come in January and on our website. I am excited this evening for the main event, which is what we call here in Southern Lehigh School District. You will see a detailed look at our academic data and outcomes, and I'm very excited to see members of our administration highlight those successes of our students and our staff, and those are my updates.
Thank you, Dr. Trinkle. Okay, moving on to item number 5, curriculum, student, and staff activities. We have Dr. Salamino coming to us for a presentation on curriculum and student staff activities.
Yes, as she prepares, I will kind of give the opening for this exciting presentation, which we call the main event. Tonight, we will take a closer look at our key areas of assessment outcomes and the trends that shaped our 24-25 academic story. As we explore those student performances, we do so with full appreciation for the diverse strengths of our learners. They are artists, they are innovators, they're musicians, athletes, and they're problem solvers, and they're leaders. Many are thriving, and those who need additional support, we stand ready to lift them up to continue their bright path successful forward. No matter the score or metric that you see tonight, our dedication remains to every student. Our mission is simple but powerful: to help students meet and surpass grade level expectations. This shared pursuit relies on focus, collaboration, and an extraordinary partnership between students, our educators, and their families. Our teams have demonstrated an exceptional effort and commitment, and their work continues to propel us forward. Our curricular initiatives are progressing with strong momentum, and while we maintain a clear vision for strengthening our core content areas, we also recognize that education continues to change and it is never static. Our growth is always ongoing. We are committed to ensuring our educators have the resources, the training, and the time they need to drive meaningful and lasting progress. This evening, we will provide a high-level overview and a deep dive in some areas of our student outcomes, and we continue to build upon that legacy of achievement, and in partnership with deep educational expertise. We take great pride in where we are today and remain focused on pursuing our impactful strategies for every learner. I want to thank members of the administration that are here this evening. Thank you for all of your efforts to put this together, to review the data, to sit with your staff, to make sure that we have everything we need for them every single day. I want to thank you for that. I appreciate all of your efforts. Dr. Solometto, I leave it in your very capable hands.
Thank you.
Yeah, please, just one thing, because I know some of you will be leaving earlier tonight. So I have comments at the end, but I do want to acknowledge and appreciate everything you've done over my time here. So thank you for that. To the administration, staff, building leaders, thank you.
Yes, we do have some administrators that need to leave for parent-teacher conferences, so they will be leaving shortly after they are finished presenting their outcomes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Trinkle. So in order to set the stage, here we have for you just a few reminders. So first and foremost, there is a lot to celebrate here within our data. I never like to miss the opportunity to point out that the achievements we're celebrating tonight belong to our students, as well as our teachers, instructional assistants, building administrators, counselors, nurses, cafeteria staff, custodians, and everyone else who works in our buildings day in and day out, and therefore has a direct impact on the achievement of our children. I think I speak on behalf of all central office administration when I say that we look forward to this presentation every year because it's our opportunity to formally recognize the incredible work that you do. Thank you. Now let's turn our attention to several key indicators that we will be using throughout this presentation, including both state and local assessments. The most familiar to many are the state assessments, which are PSSAs and Keystones. These assessments both contribute to state and local measures of accountability, offering data that informs instructional decisions, helps us track progress, and highlights areas for improvement. So for the PSSA tonight, you'll hear about ELA and mathematics for grades 3 through 8. Typically, you would hear about science for grades 5 and 8. This year, we had a state accountability waiver for science. Science this year was considered to be a field test due to the significant number of STEELS-aligned items on that test. And so really participation was the only accountability measure that the state counted this year, not performance. With Keystone, here in Southern Lehigh, we test annually in the spring, algebra in grades 7 and 8, and then in grades 9 to 12, we have algebra, biology, and English or literature. Some of the local assessments that you will be hearing about tonight include STAR, Acadience, IXL, and AP tests, and these measures capture student growth and achievement as well. The difference is that these assessments are done more frequently than something like a PSSA or a Keystone, which are moment-in-time assessments. We must look at the whole data picture, combining annual state assessment data with regular local assessment data to determine trends in student growth and achievement and drive our instructional decisions. I want to also take a moment here to clarify the difference between the tests, like PSSA and Keystone, and the data warehouses, where the data from those tests lives, and that we'll be referencing throughout the presentation. So the first one that I'll speak to briefly is the Future Ready Index. So this is the public-facing report card on the schools, designed to provide a comprehensive and holistic view of school and student success. The Future Ready Index integrates multiple measures, including academic performance, on-track measures, and college and career readiness. You may also hear us reference eMetric, which is a data warehouse that allows us to access and analyze student achievement data, view individual and group performance, and analyze performance by subgroup. We'll also talk a little bit about PVAS, which provides information on both student achievement and growth. This data looks at groupings of students, not a single comparison of test scores. It helps us to both look back at a student's achievement history and growth history, as well as make projections of student achievement and growth moving forward on future tests. We can use the data that we get from these various warehouse systems to help us in a general way, so think big picture and broad brush, but also in a diagnostic way to see how programming is working on different groups of students. I would like to mention too, this year there was a change in the PVAS methodology. So previously the state had used the growth standard methodology to calculate growth on in PVAS for the PSSA, ELA, and math. This year, they moved over to the predictive methodology. The predictive methodology is the same methodology that has always been used on the science assessments and the Keystone assessments. So essentially the difference there is that the growth methodology takes how students performed last year and tries to predict whether or not uses how they performed this year compared to that as to whether or not they met their growth goal. With the predictive methodology, they're taking the entirety of the student's assessment history, using that to help calculate a projection of how we think they'll do this year. And so the student group's actual performance compared to the predicted performance calculates their growth measure. So I wanted to point that out. This is actually going to result in more consistency in reporting moving forward, as predictive methodology is what PVAS will be using from here on out for all state assessments. The slides that I'm going to be highlighting are all from the Future Ready Index, so I always kind of like to take a moment just to sort of preface a few things that you're going to see when you see those Future Ready slides. And so just a reminder that Future Ready is a 30,000-foot view of our students' achievement and growth. And so in order to measure that progress, PDE has determined growth and achievement goals that districts should strive to meet by the year 2033. So with Future Ready, you see three colors. You see blue, green, and red. What those colors indicate is how the students in that building for that test did in order to make the necessary growth toward meeting that 2033 goal. So blue means that the students exceeded the target for where they needed to be in order to meet that goal by 2033. The green means that the students are on track to meet that 2033 goal. Red means that the students were not on track. They were kind of behind where they needed to be in order to meet that 2033 target. I know that seeing red can sometimes feel alarming, so I just want to remind everyone that this is not an indicator that our students performed poorly. In fact, as you will see in just a moment, quite the opposite is true. Our students once again exceeded the state average in every tested area. The red simply means that our scores on any given test did not meet the target to be considered on track toward meeting the state's 2033 goal. And while this does signal an area of opportunity for our district, it does not signal a major cause for concern. Something else a little bit different about the 2025 test administration was that this was the first year that we had a good majority of our students take the test online in preparation for the requirement that all students, with the exception of very few, take online PSSAs and Keystones in spring of 2026. So third grade continued last year with paper pencil testing. Fourth grade on up went online. It's reasonable to assume that this change in testing modality may have had an impact on test scores, especially in the earlier grade levels where students have had less experience taking tests and writing essays on a device as opposed to paper pencil. All right, so we're going to jump into the data. I'm going to start by just highlighting some statewide trends. So if we look at PSSA first and we look at ELA, we saw a statewide dip in ELA performance, down from 53.9% to 49.9%. When we share our own Southern Lehigh data in a few moments, you will notice that we performed considerably better than the statewide average. In math, the story statewide is a little bit more positive, showing an increase up from 40.2% to 41.7%. Again, here in Southern Lehigh, you will hear us hear that we have outperformed that state average as well. And as I spoke to before, science this year, there's no achievement data to speak to due to that state accountability waiver. The Keystone has parallel trends. Literature was down a little bit. Algebra was up a little bit. Biology, interestingly, we actually do have achievement data for the biology Keystone, even though there were Steels-aligned items on that test. The biology Keystone was not considered a field test a field test. It had field tested items on it. So there is a distinction there. So we have biology achievement data, but what you'll notice when I go over the Future Ready in a moment is that the Future Ready does not show biology data because we have a number of buildings across the state that are, junior, senior high school type buildings where they were administering both Science PSSA and Bio Keystone. They wouldn't have been able to come up with a building score for a building that had both of those test administrations when the PSSA was waived and the biology wasn't. So you do see here that the statewide average for biology is 49.4%. Again, we exceed that here in Southern Lehigh. You will not see that reflected on the Future Ready Index. Okay, so I'm going to take just a moment focusing on achievement here for each building and just kind of do a high-level overview of each building. So we're going to start off here with Hopewell. So all the way to the right is science. It is grayed out. They never give science anyway. They only go up through third grade. But in the middle, you see blue. So that means that's for the math. And so the exciting news is that our students at Hopewell have exceeded the target to being on track for their 2033 goal, and you can see far exceeded the state average. All the way to the left, you see ELA there, and you will see red. As you can see with the yellow bars, we have exceeded the state average, but we have some work to do to kind of just get on track toward meeting that 2033 goal of 81.1%. I should mention too, attendance is something that you don't see here on this slide, but is reported within Future Ready. Hopewell's attendance it was 91.8%, which is excellent. That means our students come to school regularly, and that's so important for building those foundational skills. And so state average for attendance is 79.6%, so certainly well above that state average. All right, we have Liberty Bell next. So again, we'll start with all the way on the right, the science is grayed out. In the middle, we have blue for math, once again, exceeding that target toward meeting the 2033 goal, far exceeding the state average. On the left, we have ELA, which is green, which means that we are on track at Liberty Bell toward meeting that 81.1% 2033 goal and far exceeding the state average in both of those tests. Also a 94.2% attendance rate at Liberty Bell, so another strong showing for attendance. 94.2, yeah. All right, we'll move on to JPLAS. Here is where we would typically see some science data. This year we do not due to the accountability waiver. In the middle, more great news there on our math test. We are once again exceeding the target toward meeting the 2033 goal and exceeding the statewide average. In ELA, similar story. You have kind of probably seen a pattern here with the ELA. It is consistent with the pattern that we saw across the state with ELA scores. So not on track to meet that 2033 goal in ELA, but still far exceeding that statewide average. And we have a 94.1 attendance rate for JPLAS, which is similarly strong. At the middle school, we have no science data. We have our math and we have our ELA represented there. You will see both exceeding that state average, both colored in red, just meaning that we have some work to do to try to get back on track toward meeting those 2033 goals. We have an 88.5% attendance rate, again, still well above the 79.6% statewide average. And finally, the high school. I discussed a moment ago how the biology keystone is not represented here in Future Ready, but the literature and the algebra tests are, both of them green, meaning that they are on track toward meeting the 2033 achievement goal, and both of those achievement scores outperforming the state average. We have at the high school a attendance rate of 90.3, so again, above the state average. So before I turn it over to the building principals, I always like to just briefly mention the differences between growth and achievement. You've heard me kind of mention those terms now a few times. Achievement is what we measure when we consider the end point. So have the students mastered the grade level skills and content that we hoped that they would within a particular course of study, and to what degree? Growth takes into account the student's starting point as well as the end point, and answers the question of, did students make the expected gains that we wanted for them out of that year of learning? When we consider both achievement and growth data, it's a bit like driving a car. We must always keep one eye on the rearview mirror. Where students have come is important and gives us a great deal of information about how to best help them in the present. However, we must not forget to always look ahead at what we project our students can and will be capable of in the future. Our educators and administrators are in the driver's seat, using this wealth of data to determine the direction and ultimately the destination. The last point that I'll make here is that we need to not get too fixated on any one measure. Both achievement and growth contribute to a full picture of student performance and possibility. The only grade level that you will not hear both types of data from is third grade, since it is the first year of testing, and therefore they do not have any growth data to report, only achievement. And with that, I will pass it over to our K-3 principals, Dr. Chromiak and Mr. Mansfield, to share their achievement data for Hopewell and Liberty Bell Elementary Schools.
Hello, good evening. As Dr. Salamena mentioned, you will not see any growth data for third grade because it is their first year testing. However, that does not mean that we are not looking at student growth over the course of the year starting in kindergarten. So although we do not have PVOS growth measures, we do have other measures such as STAR Early Literacy, STAR Reading, STAR Math. Acadian stated that we look at growth over time to make sure that our students, although they may not be proficient just yet, that we are closing those gaps and looking at data and providing intervention for them. So you will just see, once they get to third grade and are presented with a PSSA for the first time, how they achieved in that moment in time. So Dr. Salamena had already shared our numbers. Overall, ELA proficiency, proficient or advanced numbers were approximately 71% at Hopewell, and our math was approximately 84% proficient or advanced. When we look across years, just looking at data and trends, one of our highlights is that we did do a little bit better than last year, which is always good to see. However, we also had a higher number of advanced English language arts students in third grade from all 4 years. So that was really nice to see that our advanced students, that we're not just looking at intervention students and providing intervention, but we are also growing some of our highest achieving students. So that was great to see captured in the data. Looking at math, again, we had about 84% who were proficient or advanced. And that is just a beautiful display because if you look, you can really see that our advanced students in math are significantly higher than any other year. So that was kind of a glow for us. And yep.
Hi. So you can see Liberty Bell scores here broken down in the 4 categories. Again, the 80.3% for ELA and the 86.6 in our mathematics. So looking here, though, the comparison across the board, our scores last year are really quite high, and you can see the past year we had 142 students, which was a really large amount of third graders. But again, we were really pleased with what we saw. These students sort of outpaced what our expectation was as we were going through the year, even through second grade, looking at STAR scores and other data we look at. Certainly when the PSSA scores came through, they were much higher than we kind of would have guessed they would have been at the end of second grade or even midway through third grade. So we were really happy with the progress they made. And same in math as we looked across and dropped. The basic and below basic numbers went down and our proficient and advanced numbers went up. So again, we were very happy to see those as our scores compared from last year to the year before. So as we move forward, we're continuing that data analysis, as Dr. Chromiak mentioned, using STAR and Acadian specifically at our age levels and targeting specific skills for students, whether it's in intervention or small group in the classroom, implementing our wit and wisdom and foundations, which we're moving to arts and letters, of course, and our geodes, with that ongoing implementation in PD. PD that continues to support our math fact fluency and number sense, which will include looking at a new math curriculum as we're going through the rest of this year, and then regular data and MTSS meetings, which continue to support our students, and then ongoing interventions, which include not just academics, but the work we're doing also with like Dr. Ablon and things like that with collaborative problem solving, and our PBIS and all of the things that we do with the little ones to get them through the day. Thank you.
Do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. It's always interesting to look at these data over time. And the one thing I see interesting here is intuitively it would seem to me that the advanced performance in math being higher than ELA is counterintuitive to me at this age. And I was just curious as to how you see that specific data and how it compares and why there are higher achievers in math than ELA. It seems to me it'd be opposite, but any thoughts to that?
Well, again, learning to read, there's a lot of skills and a lot of things to kind of put together as far as your, letter sounds, putting it together into words, reading it fluently, and then comprehending and analyzing what a text is actually asking. In addition to then putting it into words and writing for a third grader is difficult, to say the least, where math can be a little bit more black and white, right? Also, in math, we have students who have allowable accommodations, such as having the test read aloud. So they can have math skills, and if they have a specific accommodation, have that read to them, so their reading is not impeding their math scores, for example, versus students who are struggling readers or have reading disabilities, or even have attention issues that are hard to focus on a long test with reading and writing, can't have any reading accommodations except for a small group. They can't have any of that read aloud. So I do find that a lot of the time our students who are struggling readers perform much higher in math because they are able to have it read aloud and it doesn't impede that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Can I add? So I'll just add to that. I taught third grade. The reading test is really challenging. It's like analyzing poetry. A lot of the stories are really long. Some of the nonfiction stories, if a kid isn't interested in that topic, like they're not going to do well, right?
That's just what we hear because we're not allowed to look at the test. That's just what we.
I mean, I looked at it when I was a teacher.
No, you can't.
Because they were in my room and I was monitoring them.
So the comprehension aspect is challenging. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Remind me again. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Mel.
Remind me again. Wit and Wisdom is in third grade.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
I would just like to share. We're in year 3, year 4, year 4.
This is our
And
third, yeah.
The rigor
Yeah. Super high.
of that program and the curriculum for ELA is, what's a good word? What's the word I'm looking for?
Robust.
Challenging. Robust.
Intense.
It is robust. Not to take away from math, but it is robust.
Mhm.
And it's one thing, we were in, Dr. Trinkle, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. from Lehigh, Dr. Lang.
Dr. Liang.
Thank you,
Liang.
Liang.
Dr. Liang, yes.
Shared something interesting in some of his analysis, how our kids are doing here at Southern Lehigh and how they're feeling, and a lot of it had to do around academics. And our kids, guess what? They just want to do well. And they feel it, and they want to do well. And this is really the bones of our district. I know we're sitting in a beautiful facility right now that we've revamped, and we watch our football players also play at an amazing facility. But it's this, what we're talking about, what you're sharing with us, is the bones of Southern Lehigh. I wanted to note that. I probably will throw out a challenge to see if we can, what we can do about the attendance. I know, pat ourselves on the back that it is great, but it could be, we could be better. I'm going to throw out a challenge, but I'm adding to the rigor of language arts probably may have had a factor. And I appreciate that you shared statewide some of the thoughts behind why there was a dip. It is throughout the Commonwealth.
Yeah, I want to add one thing because it's always impressive to see this, and I love looking at the data and tracking the improvement. And especially when you're such a high-performing district like we are, it's hard to get growth, okay? And yet you guys deliver year after year. I look at the curriculum that was put forward 3 years ago, not as cost on expenditure side, but as investment. And this is the return on investment because it's the payoff. So that's good. Like to see that. Good job, you guys.
I just had two quick questions. Thanks for the easily legible presentation. When you were talking about the English, how we'll be moving from pen and pencil this year, as required by the state, to an electronic form next year, and you're talking about the rigor of the ELA. Is there free response in the ELA portion now? So my next leading question is, and this is not for you to answer really, it's just to say, if there is free response, at what age are we teaching keyboard skills and typing? Because how in the world is a third grader supposed to, a QWERTY keyboard, well, typing is an keyboard skills.
Yeah.
But so
that is a great question, and we had definitely thought of that and planned for that for this year. So when we did order for our technology, the new iPads, we specifically ordered ones that had keyboards because we knew that they would need to start typing and practicing. So both of our schools actually have our students doing typing. They are learning typing at least 30 minutes a week, where they have instruction in typing, like
the
actual,
four home fingers.
You got
kind
it.
Of typing?
So they're typing, and then our staff are allowing them time now. Not only, again, we know handwriting is super important, and fine motor skills are super important, but because they're going to have to do this as well, we have also added this in as another component for third grade. So they just get a little bit of everything. They get to learn cursive, they get to learn to type, they get to learn letter formation still, and put it all together. So they have lots on their plate, but they're kind of loving typing. I'm getting good feedback that, some of them are they're kind of good. They're good to go. Some of them are super quick. They kind of like that challenge of being quick and being able to type and having the opportunity now to type. It kind of makes them feel cool and older, and so they are typing. They're still doing a lot of writing, but they are being instructed on typing. So hopefully when it comes to taking the test, they will have experience with short answers and typing, and they're able to do that.
Yeah, and wow, I had no idea. So kudos and thank you to the elementary staff and curriculum and teachers who were taking that on.
Yes.
It's also the reason that we didn't go to the online last year, because we didn't feel the kids
We didn't
were ready.
think they were ready. They would not have been.
Ms. Gateman, thank you for bringing that forward.
Yeah, and
that question.
And
But
can I
Dr.
go ahead, and then we'll
Tomiak
bounce
and Mr.
back.
Mansfield for explaining what we did with third grade, and that came up last winter leading into spring when we ordered the devices, and maybe it was Education Committee, but then it was brought forth for curriculum to design keyboarding, air quote, please don't call it that, in our
Mr.
elementary.
Mansfield had a heart attack.
In our elementaries.
Doing online last year.
And not for the board, not for us to fix or solve that item there, but that our buildings embraced it. And if I recall, we also discussed building on that foundation of that keyboarding that we came to the conclusion last spring, and now it's nice to hear that it is in play.
We feel they'll be ready this year.
We hope.
Last year, no.
They should be, yeah.
No, I think that was what was the
They have
with
more
the devices
opportunities,
and
for
how you've
sure.
implemented
Yes.
air quote teaching keyboarding.
Yes.
I'm old and I'm going to call it keyboarding.
Yes.
I'm going to call it word processing.
And the state also provides another practice assessment, Firefly assessment it's called, that our teachers are kind of doing some practice with and kind of showing. The state does have a lot of tutorials to show kids how to use the online tools and devices, and we will give them opportunities to practice with that as well. Because we know this is their first time ever taking a standardized test, and now this will be their first time taking a standardized test on a computer.
That's a helpful nugget, too, to know that our students walk through that test, that pre-test, that example test, before actually taking the actual assessment where they're going to be scored. So it's nice that you explained that those assessments, there's that practice test.
Yep.
And we have to remember, right, like kids are always way more resilient than we give them credit for. I did online testing when I was administrator in Allentown, and we didn't see a big difference in scores. Like they're more resistant or resilient rather than we always think they're going to be. It's us that are older
And
that don't want to
adaptable.
change.
Yeah.
I had two other, I don't want to interrupt
Go ahead.
the flow. I had
Yeah.
two other quick questions. One was, do you know whether or not, as a resource thought for the future for the board allocating resources, since our school has the capability of these touchpad iPads with keyboards at the elementary level, do you know if there's going to be a PSSA adaptation so that if we provided styluses for those who a free response in a written form with a stylus on a tablet would be better? Do we have any idea whether that's going to be accessible for those students?
Is that an option?
Not as an IEP or a 504,
I think
just
with the transition of third grade going to the IS, that's a great question for Mr. McGinty.
All right, we're punting that one. Okay. And then my last question was, and thanks for the data, I just, out of curiosity, I noticed that there was about a 30% delta increase in the percentage of elementary population in each building, kind of equally, between last year and this year, or in any prior year. Taking the test. Is that a population influx, or is that a change in the percentage of the population taking the PSSAs? Like, so for
No.
example, number
That-
tested is 93 kids, 114, 113?
Yeah,
And
that
then
was
this
our
year-
bubble class.
That this
That's
is, and that was
now-
that 30%.
That was it.
Okay.
Yep.
I
that
thought
was
so.
the
I
bubble.
just didn't know if it was quite that big a bubble.
Yep,
but
it was a
okay.
big bubble.
It was a big
Yeah.
bubble. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
As they're walking away, I would just make a comment, is this is why we wanted to have technology and education committee integrated so that we're able to tackle some of these things that are connected between curriculum, testing, and the technology.
Ms. Gaiman, you're coming prepared with amazing questions and points tonight. The stylus and the iPads, that's a great question. And there is a conference, I believe, in February where there will be state PDE stakeholders, and that would be a great question that if we have representation at that conference to definitely follow up on that as we prepare. So thank you for bringing all your bag of questions tonight for us to get ahead of it.
Go for it, Mr. Kearney. Just sneak right on across the camera view.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to start off with a familiar slide. So Dr. Salamito showed this slide. This is the PA Future Ready, so showing all grade levels and their achievement. The next slide is also from PA Future Ready, and then this one will show overall growth across the 3 grades at the intermediate school. As you can see in this slide, we've met the growth standard for ELA and exceeded the growth standard in math. That's across all 3 grade levels. This is a closer look at growth from PBOS. You'll notice there the math predictive scores. This is the first time since I've been working with PBOS data that I've seen all 3 grade levels in math exceed the growth standard. And if you notice the PBOS people called them mustache formations there on the 4th and 5th grade graphs, it's far exceeding the growth standard in both of those areas. We did not meet the growth standard in 4th grade ELA. We'll talk a lot more about that in some slides ahead. We met the growth standard and exceeded the growth standard in 6th grade for ELA. I pasted the growth standard onto our achievement and looking back to 2018 just to keep everything on one page so we're not referring back to that first slide, because that first slide has data across all of our grade levels and all of our subjects. So this data here was good for the best in Lehigh County as far as the schools that have 6th grades, not necessarily districts, about 21 of them. And then top 8%, 8.8% in the state as far as achievement is concerned. This was an online assessment in math. Students did very well. What's interesting, as you'll see in the next slide, and our percentage standing in Pennsylvania and Lehigh County, it's a testament, I think, to some of the great schools in Lehigh County. But our students did well with this in mathematics. Our pass rate was strong, above average for our last few years. This is a scatter plot, one of my favorite graphs in PBOS. I had Dr. Salamito of calling them regularly to find out when they were going to release these. It's a good visual. If you see the orange star, that's us. And then this would be districts in Pennsylvania. When I run this with schools in Pennsylvania, it's almost impossible to interpret. But the idea here is, and if you're helping your child with graphing, we want to be in quadrant 1 up there on the right, so showing high growth, high achievement. We're not necessarily one of the outliers, but I think pretty strong when I look at this in these graphs, just to give you a good visual of how, compared to the state, we're doing with a combination of achievement and growth. So our 6th grade ELA numbers, now this was good enough for the top 7.5% in Pennsylvania, but we were actually 3rd in Lehigh County as far as schools that have 6 grades. Again, a testament to the quality of education in the county. A great pass rate, very good with our advanced score this year. And again, just showing you there the PBOS score well above meeting the well above the growth standard. Dr. Solomito mentioned the growth standard. I think it's a much more robust calculation at this point. They are taking historical data, mounds and mounds of data, and using that data with students that were in 5th grade and then took the 6th grade PSSA, and they're generating a predictive score. So the blue symbol there is showing you that our students did better than predicted, or better than predicted with students that have similar data profiles historically in Pennsylvania. Again, another scatter plot just to show you where we would fall in the state when it comes to growth and achievement. Again, in the quadrant we want to be, where we want to be as far as growth and achievement is concerned. 5th grade mathematics, you'll see this one has the mustache on it, so far exceeding the growth standard. Strong numbers here with our advanced, nearly our high water mark as far as percent advanced, going all the way back to 2018. Top 10.5% in the state. 9th in Lehigh County. There are a lot more schools in Lehigh County that have 5th grades over 40. And here's our scatter plot. You see this one stretches out a little bit more, right where we want to be as far as growth and achievement is concerned again. So here's where we saw a decline in our achievement, and I have another slide just to give you a little background on it. This assessment, first time for 5th graders taking an online assessment. This was not the first time for 6th graders. Our 6th graders seem to have intact the keyboarding skills that they needed over the last few years, because this wouldn't even have been the second time for some classrooms. For 6th grade, we have been piloting an online assessment in one classroom every year for the last 7 years. So this drop in achievement was interesting and needed a second look. However, the growth was still meeting or exceeding actually the growth standard, which was also interesting for 5th grade ELA. So what we did was we took a look at an electronic assessment that we're a little bit more familiar with, that tests the same standards in ELA. It's also electronic, and we just kind of compared. So our students who took the PSSA in 5th grade in May came back to us in August and took the STAR assessment in 6th grade. So 2 very similar tests, relatively the same cohort of students, and the achievement was back up to what our typical average pass rate is in ELA. The interesting part about this data, and why I wanted to include it, is there is one major difference between these 2 assessments, and that is the STAR assessment does not have an open response. So no keyboarding required, no long response required. That really was what we needed to see what we needed to dedicate our time to when it comes to improving ELA scores, because it appears as though our students have a solid base as far as the content is concerned. They just might not be putting key to screen as well as they did pen to paper. Here's our scatter plot, and even with the dip in achievement, we met or exceeded the growth standard and still in that quadrant where we'd like to be. 4th grade mathematics, again, one of those mustache growths, so outside of the range there, far exceeding. Very good numbers historically here for advanced, and top 8.6% in the state. And our scatter plot again shows high achievement, strong growth, again compared to statewide data. 4th grade ELA, again, we saw a dip in our achievement number. still in the top 21%, top 21.8% in the state, 13th in Lehigh County. And again, this was data that would had us scratching our heads, taking a closer look and using the same methodology, comparing the STAR. As you can see, the STAR that does not have the open response, the number is back up to very close to and actually exceeding our average pass rate for ELA. This was the only scatter plot that we had that wasn't on the right quadrant, but still above the line as far as achievement is concerned. So looking at growth and trying to focus on our keyboarding skills, we were working with some free software. We've invested in a more robust program so that our students can practice that touch method and just get much more comfortable and confident with using that kind of written response. So one of the last slides here, and again, I love when this comes out. So if you go on to Future Ready Index, and you can do this yourself, you can use their filters, and you can find out using the first filter of grade level that there are 633 schools in Pennsylvania that have 4th, 5th, and 6th. Some of them are K-6 schools, some of them are schools like ours that are intermediate, some are K-8 schools, but the common thread is that they all have 4th, 5th, and 6th. If you use the filter of 70% math proficient, advanced and proficient, you will end up with 33 of those 633 schools. If you use the filter of 60% pass rate for ELA, you'll end up with 31. And then if you combine growth scores of over 90 and over 60, you end up with 20. Happy to report that JPLIS is one of those 20 that lands us in the top 3.16% of all schools with 4th, 5th, and 6th grade in Pennsylvania. Very exciting to see every year. Sometimes we're even fewer, we're even more unique. And finally, this is just an overview of what we do and how we do it. And you'll notice that typing supports would be new to this list of things that we try to do, just to beef up that skill to make sure that our written response are reflective of the knowledge base that our students have and the skills they've built. And that concludes JPLIS's data. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. You mind if I ask a question? So we talked a lot about keyboarding, and certainly I understand that that's a challenge. Is there any opportunity for dictation software or for students to dictate some of these responses? Because, you know, quite frankly, I know I probably dictate 90% of all the words that are written in my reports at work that I'm communicating, and you know, in the medical field, that's been somewhat commonplace for many decades now. But I understand it's making its way towards, you know, many other industries, and you know, obviously, we haven't talked at all about AI, but quite frankly, AI is able to kind of listen and dictate a lot of the reports that I'm generating on a day-to-day basis, and I think in other industries as well. So I can understand it's a challenge during testing, right? Because with ambient noise and such like that. But I don't know if there's any discussion about that within education.
So voice to text is an allowable accommodation for students with IEPs, and that's one that you have to let the state know that we're going to use it. Between that question and the stylus question, those are great questions for the state and for the name of the company again. DRC, Data Recognition Corp. That would be a great example of something that we could do to kind of alleviate the stress of what we're going to be talking about next year. An 8-year-old typing away on a keyboard. It's you know, they've spent so much time pen to paper. Just developing that skill and having that support would be wonderful if they could use a stylus or especially voice to text.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, we're talking about, and this I think begs the question: are these assessments indicative of really, you know, what we're trying to achieve within education and creating, you know, future learners? And they're not necessarily, you know, that's not necessarily the case. But I would encourage. I'm sure a lot of the students, if you give them, you know, a project to do, they may be utilizing voice to text at home. Mm-hmm. You know, at the same time, you do need to be able to do the basic, you know, keyboarding, but they're probably using a lot of other modalities, I think, to generate, you know, work. And more efficiently, yes, I agree. A lot more efficiently.
I appreciate your cohort comparison slides to show that. I think it sheds a lot of light on those numbers. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I had a question in regards to, so it's in some of the slides scattered about. So like, from using my athletic background and also utility industry wide, like benchmarking, when we measure ourselves up and we see the names and the likes of Wilson, Nazareth in some of these slides where they're ahead of us, when we're talking about we joke about the scatter plot and there's no names tied to the stars, but there's names that we see tied to this. Like from an actionable steps, and this is not, I don't want anybody to take any offense whatsoever. This is just me just challenging. Are the actionable steps stuff that we find or feel is reasonable to move our scores, or are some of the other schools that are nearby us, have they gone through these things and already have verified that, hey, this didn't really have that big of an impact? Or, hey, no, actually, you guys are all on the right step. Like, this was huge for us, and we saw a huge move in one of these, right? There's a lot of actionable steps on there. If there's something that maybe like some of the other schools may have found that, hey, this really pushed the needle, like put all your effort and put all your eggs, your basket, beans, whatever you want to call it, put them in that basket because that was the biggest thing that pushed the needle for us. Just wanted to throw that out there because we do that in the utility industry a lot.
It's a great question, and I contacted a principal in North Penn because I was admiring their math achievement scores. They were amazing, really out of the park. And when I called him up, so what curriculum are you using? He said Envisions. And at the time, that's exactly what we were using. I would say the MTS, the multi-tiered system of supports, is a great strategy for us to use as far as moving the needle when it comes to pass rate, because that system is targeting skills that are related to really what they're being tested on. But that's a great question. I mean, that's collaborating with other principals and wondering, what are you doing different, and how could we replicate it? But it was kind of deflating when he told me it was the same math program that we were using.
I just I go into in how many presentations of follow up of after action review and stuff like that. Like once you clutter a slide, and please don't use any of my words. That's no offense. Greenie can speak and attend for my how things come across. But like, there's a lot of stuff on there. That's a lot of work for a lot of the group. So like, I look at it from the perspective of, hey, if one of these stars or two of these stars like is extremely impactful, we can put a lot more effort behind those, and we know and we've seen that those have moved the needle, and that way then, like from a workforce standpoint, you don't feel as overwhelmed or stretched thin to where instead of delivering 6 things at 60% or 70%, 80%, whatever you want to call it, you're going to deliver 2 things and you're going to nail the mark. You're going to hit it 100%, and you're going to really see the impact and the outcome of that achieved. I'm just looking at it to try to make it easier for you folks too, because you guys are all very busy, and there's a lot on here, and these are just words on the slide, but I'm sure these run deep in terms of how much of a leg and lift and effort this is. So I just look at it from that perspective in terms of what's the most meaningful, what's the most impactful, and putting more effort behind those things based on what other folks have seen. So that's not just for you. You just happened to be on the spot when it came finally across my head.
I would assume you're prioritizing these lists as the most impactful anyway.
Yeah, in a way, right? Yeah, I mean, putting it all together, thinking about what helps or what supports achievement. Yes.
I had a quick question. When we say, first in Lehigh County at the bottom of a lot of these slides, first in Lehigh County, third in Lehigh County, 7th, 9th, 14th in Lehigh County, could you, I'm struggling, could you, is that school districts within the county? Like, how is that count established? Like, schools within the, and also are you including like the ones that are in Northampton too? Could you just explain how that?
No, I'm not, and I don't think that would have, it really, I think when it came to Lehigh, and if I included Northampton, what I ended up doing is going down a rabbit hole.
Exactly.
And now who do I exclude?
I was just wondering, like Bethlehem School District is half and half. So how are we counting the district? Or are we counting literally the buildings, the school brick buildings in the county is what we're counting, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. Because I was like, the math isn't mathing for me, but now it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McGinty, I'm just going to add to Mr. Mon's point. Your slides that have the cohort really speak volumes, because PSSA is one data point where students are taking that test in the spring. But it was nice to see how you compared STAR data, and you took that cohort from where they landed in the spring to the fall. And then it's a predictor. And you can even move forward with that cohort from their fall to their winter and then their fall to their spring. And that's really where the proof is in the pudding. I would never say moving the needle when it comes to our child's growth and achievement, but seeing STAR and Acadians and IXL, those are things that are happening more on the day-to-day versus PSSA. That's one data point.
Mm-hmm.
That's really where the proof is. And then how you brought that in to compare to see the predictive of where our students, I forget you had fifth graders, where they could be landing. Are they on mark? You don't have to answer. I don't think I have a question. I'm just excited that your team is taking that and weaving it further to really see where our students are at and where they need to be. So
I appreciate that. We needed that that data. It was with the
you
decline in
do.
the achievement.
I mean,
I thought,
you know what?
well,
I probably should have just put it all in MTSS because that's what you're doing in your day-to-day to really hone in on how those other assessments are really highlighting or identifying where our students are and the supports that are needed. It really is a 7-layered cake that my grandmother used to make. It was phenomenal.
Thank you, Mr.
Sorry, can I just, one more, because thank you, that really helped me analyze the data in my building question. So out of how many buildings? When you say like when at the bottom of slide 14th, first out of how many, seventh out of how many?
So for grades below 6th grade, it's over 40.
Thank you.
It depends.
Yeah,
in the
sure.
state, it's 1,500 or over 1,500 for grades 5 and below.
Oh, I just meant for Lehigh, that
okay.
Lehigh County stat, because we're all kind of thinking
Yep.
locally and we
There's
know
more
those.
elementary schools.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So because of the uniqueness of your building, that's why it's so,
I prefer the grade level comparisons versus buildings.
Exactly. Okay,
we're
great.
just not the same.
Perfect. Yeah, that wasn't kind of doing it justice there. So thank you. I understand now.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you for your patience. I'll warn you, the middle school has the most tests, even though we have the fewest grades, so I also have the most slides. No, I think I have under 30. So I wanted to highlight some success on here. We had 80 8th grade students who were inducted into National Junior Honor Society this year. That's about 35% of our 8th grade class, which is phenomenal. And those students had a 3.8 GPA and completed a minimum of 6 hours of community service, many of which were way over that number. So that's fantastic news. And all of our students, we hit 100% for our career standards, which start in the middle school also. So that's exciting. Now, I did dig. Yeah, it's fantastic. I did dig into our building score as a way to compare us to schools in Lehigh and Northampton County. So you'll see some of the Bethlehem schools on here. This is really just kind of the ones that I could fit on the slide. But I dug a little bit deeper into this too to figure out how those numbers are created. So a building score is calculated through achievement, growth, attendance, and a challenge multiplier. So you're going to see that as we dig deeper. We rank 3rd out of Lehigh and Northampton County for middle schools. And on here, I just took the top 6 schools and listed our achievement and proficiency in math and ELA. So you can see how we rank compared to like Northwestern Lehigh. We outpace them in both, even though they beat us in the building score competition, if you were to use that. And we rank very highly, 2nd or 3rd for each one of those subject areas. So if we look here, you can see that Southern Lehigh has our percentage for the math proficiency is only 1% below the top school for the area, which is Springhouse, and our ELA proficiency is slightly below IR. Our growth was good for math, and it was fair for ELA, but not great. Our attendance is very good, again, and then the big difference here, though, is the challenge multiplier. So our challenge multiplier is the lowest of all of the schools on this list, and that affects your building score. So that's something to consider when you look at our ranking overall. So now into the PVOS data. These are our growth scores. Math is both of the scores are in the blue. Our ELA is in the blue for 7th grade. In 8th grade, it is in the red. Our ELA score is typically in the red for growth in 8th grade. And a big part of this is the fact that we only have 45 minutes for ELA in 8th grade. all through elementary school, all through the high school, they have 90 minutes. In 8th grade, a core class, one of the ELA classes, is replaced by a world language. So our 8th graders are not only learning English, but they've now started a new world language as well, and that takes up that extra 45 minutes. And so I think that's a big part of why that consistently is where we see a struggle, and we've looked at some of that with some of our support, so I'll talk about that more too. And then our Keystone Algebra score was in the dark blue, which is great growth there also. I do want to note that that score is not included in our PVAS scores. The algebra scores from our students don't show up until the high school when they're in 11th grade. So none of these scores help any of our PVAS or help any of our future ready scores. So I also took a look at the cohorts, and this is interesting because each class has kind of a different personality, and you'll see this in their growth. The current 9th graders, so this is the 8th graders from last year, the current 9th graders have a little bit of a bouncing ball approach to their learning. And if you have kids, you know that some kind of consistently grow at the same pace, and others have big growth spurts and then stall and then a big growth spurt. And that's what we see here. So the 8th graders, when you look at their 5th, 6th, 7th scores, they're kind of low, high, low, high. We see the same thing as they continue through in both math and ELA. And you'll also note that the scores are different this year with the predictive score versus the gain score, and that changes the numbers over on the right too. So it jumps from an NCE score to a scale score. Our 7th grade cohort, so these are the current 8th graders, do a little bit of that jumping around. So they have a great year of growth, and then they have a little bit of a slower year of growth. And I'm not a statistician, but I would venture to guess that when you have a huge year of growth, that then impacts what is expected of you the next year. So if they're taking that whole composite score and looking at a student from 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and in 3rd grade they make, a 50% growth, then they have a great year of growth in 4th grade, they're expecting this to continue. And it's very hard to keep making that same growth and that same pace. So you see some dips there. Typically after a really high year of growth, the next year is low. And you notice that from 4th to 5th. You notice that from 4th to 5th in math, and then from 5th to 6th in ELA. But our math scores and our English scores for 7th grade were both in the blue. We're both in the blue. They made great growth in both those areas last year, this current 7th graders, or current 8th graders. I also took a look at our scores last year on the Future Ready in terms of our percent advanced. And so even though we had some red on that data point or in that warehouse, you can see that our scores aren't very different. In fact, we increased in math about 5% increase in our percent advanced compared to last year, and our English scores stayed exactly the same. So we had the same number of kids proficient and advanced, I should say, in English, and in math we actually grew. So our English scores here, across the state, and I'm going to show you some of that also, there was a dip in ELA. And you definitely saw it at the middle school level. Our students took the PSSA on the computers, and I dug deeper into that and looked at some research about just comprehension when you're looking at a digital text versus a paper and pencil text. And there's a lower percentage of comprehension, especially in expository texts, when you're looking on a digital screen as opposed to a paper and pencil. This could be because the kids are used to annotating on paper and pencil in the classroom, and now they're faced with doing it on a computer. They have to flip back to a different screen to look back at what they read to find the answers. This is all very different. So I'm glad that we opted into it this year. It gave us a chance to see that in action, and then we can make some changes for next year. But again, the PVAS is at the bottom there, so you can see great growth for the 7th graders. 8th graders are always where it struggles. Some of the things we've done this year is we are looking to move to become a Title I school. That'll give us the ability to use our reading specialist a little bit differently and have more reading supports for students. Right now, we only have Title I services for our math students at the middle school. So this kind of opens the door for that. So our reading specialist, we've expanded some supports in this process
of moving to a school-wide Title I. So she is pushing into Spartan periods throughout the month. So she hits every single Spartan period at least once a month and is doing some key skill instruction for the entirety of the student population. So it's not just pulling out in small groups anymore. And she's also co-teaching in several of our English classes to provide additional support in the classroom to some of those students. So our 7th grade ELA achievement, you can see the state average is, if you looked from right to left, which is a strange way of looking at a graph, but that's the way it maps out. The state average for proficient and advanced falls where that red line is, 49.9. Ours was well above that, 74.4, and very small number of below basic students, which, again, these are different classes of kids, so there's slight differences between the groups, but still very solid. And then our 8th grade achievement, again, the 49.9, ours was 63.8, and these 8th graders had a little bit higher number of below basic student scores this year. They also had over 30 more students that took the test this year than last year. And again, only 45 minutes of instruction per day compared to the 90 that they get in 7th grade. These are state scores and the pattern across the state. So you can see the decline in ELA across the state over the last 5 years. And then I put our scores in red for 7th and 8th grade. So you can see where we fall compared to the numbers across the state that are continuing to dip. And then I also have, these are very hard to see, but we are the orange dots, again, on the scatter plots. 7th grade, we are in that quadrant one, very high in quadrant 1. And in 8th grade, which is the bottom graph, we are above the line in terms of achievement. So we have high achievement, but we don't hit the growth. Then our math achievement, again, the Keystone scores are not included here. Our percent proficient or advanced was 56.5. Our growth was 100, which means that all of our students made growth. We've continued our Title I services. We've actually expanded them by adding an IA to provide support in classrooms for students as well as for the pullouts. And we now are doing a 2-teacher team for the Title I supports to see if that helps kind of provide a more robust look at those services for students. So we have a math teacher split, and one is doing the 7th grade pullouts and one is doing the 8th grade pullouts, and then they're teaching classes the other periods. So our 7th grade math achievement, state average for proficient or advanced is 41%. Ours was 62%. And we've reduced our number below basic and kind of grown the number into basic. So those are the Title I kids that we're pushing up from below basic or to proficient. And our 8th grade achievement, very stable. Again, state average 41. Ours was 51. This has remained pretty stable throughout. Now, our Keystone algebra achievement is very high, even though this doesn't count in the other scores. But we have the state average for Keystone proficient and advanced is 41%, and ours is actually 95% at the middle school. So we offer 2 different advanced math pathways at the middle school. There's a one-year advanced math pathway and a 2-year hyper-accelerated math pathway. There's 106 students that took the Algebra Keystone last year. And 50% of our 8th graders are in some sort of advanced math pathway. 45% of our 7th graders are in an advanced math pathway. And if you are going to PDE to advocate, I would strongly advocate for students who have to take the Keystone to not have to take a PSSA in math that same year, because we see that this is definitely a challenge. And I actually dug into that this year to compare their scores, because those are our top performers, and they're being tested, potentially if they're 8th graders, on 4 different tests across 4 weeks. They spend the entirety of the month doing testing, which is a lot for any student. So math achievement across the state is growing. 7th grade, it's remained relatively stable the last 3 years, but ours significantly outpaces that, as does the 8th grade. So we are continuing to grow our kids in math, and they're doing really well. Here's our comparisons across the state with the scatter plots, and in all 3 of these, we are in that top right quadrant with the high achievement and high growth. So here is the Keystone Algebra achievement. The blue lines are the Keystone scores. Then the red dotted line is their PSSA performance for each student. So if you look at the 8th grade graph is on the left, 7th grade graph is on the right, you can see that the blue lines are consistently higher than the red lines. We really focus strongly on that Keystone because it is a graduation requirement. So those students that are in these advanced math classes have to master 2 sets of standards. They have to master the Keystone standards to pass that exam, but they also have to master the 7th grade standards or the 8th grade standards, which is very hard to fit into a 45-minute period throughout the year. So we see that they outperform on the Keystone and put their effort and their focus there as opposed to the PSSAs. So that's all one-shot information from a moment in time, but some of the things we look at more importantly are the day-to-day data, and that's the IXL scores. So I know students grumble about doing the IXLs, but it really does give good data, and it offers us a chance to give them exactly what they need. So our students at the middle school do most of the work during the school day. It's in their Spartan periods. They're assigned 2 per class, 2 for ELA and 2 for math. And you can see here, the dark purple are skills that they have mastered, which means they got 100% on that skill. The light purple is a skill that's considered proficient, and that is 80% or higher on that skill. So IXL recommends a mastery or a proficiency of 2 goals per week, 2 skills per week. We average about 3.8 per week. So we do use this to measure our growth. And then taking those benchmark exams on the IXL show us how our students are doing. And you can see this is just throughout this year, from their starting point, the growth that they've made based on that daily work in IXL, or weekly work in IXL, I should say, in both math and language arts. So I drilled down a little bit there to help you understand what it looks like. So I broke down our courses. So here's our 7th grade ELA, and you can see the 4 different courses that are offered. We've got honors language arts, and the student count is in the bottom right. The on-level language arts are comprehensive language arts, which is a bit more supported. It's taught in a block schedule, so students have the same teacher for both blocks. And it offers them more time to kind of drill back and remediate any things that they're struggling with. And then Language Arts 1127 is our special education language arts. So these are the IXL scores for our 7th graders, starting with their 6th grade score last year, and then the first marking period flex score, and then the marking period 2 flex score. So you can see that they are growing throughout the end of last year and into the beginning of this year, which gives us a good indication that what we're doing is working on the day-to-day. At the same time, this is our 8th grade IXL growth, and you can see those numbers. Again, honors language arts, regular language arts, the comprehensive, and then our special education language arts. And our IXL scores for those highest students are growing from, an 8th grader who took the IXL diagnostic at the end of 7th grade and got a 910, is moving up to currently an 8th grader with an average score of 1154, which is an 11th grade IXL score. 910 is 9th grade first month. And then our math, I looked at the same way. So 6th grade scores, as well as now where they are currently in the second marking period. Our algebra students have grown from a 761 to an 881. Just for reference, we look for about 100 points of growth per year. So when you're seeing jumps of more than 100 points in less than 6 months, this is very optimistic, and we're very excited about these numbers. And then we're seeing even our lowest students growing here from a 270 to a 392. And then our 8th grade IXL growth, again, these students are making growth consistently. You see a little bit of an up and down. Some are more large jumps than others. So the marking period 4, and then we see a little bit of a dip or a stabilization over the summer when we come back with our initial marking period 1, and then they start to go up again. Okay. Any questions? Yes?
It's not really a question, just a comment. I'm just really happy that PSSA scores make the newspaper, IXL scores don't. So I'm really glad that you did a data dive and went into other and plus it's multiple times. It's not just a one time a year kind of test. So I appreciate you pointing that out. And plus it was more useful as a teacher. PSSA was in the spring. I wouldn't find out until after they were done.
Yeah, they're
IXL, I didn't have IXL, we had Lexia, but it was data that I could use to adapt. Not saying PSSA data isn't important for, school-wide trends maybe, or areas of weakness and strength, but thanks for pointing out all these other types of data that you looked at.
Yeah, and thanks also for pointing out the amount of testing that particularly in the middle school these kids go through. And just speaking purely as a parent whose children have been through that middle school repetitive testing, particularly in math, as you were mentioning, routine, just those parents, speaking as a parent, those parents who think that, advocacy is great in Harrisburg, but those parents who think that taking those repetitive tests negatively impact their child's spirituality and their spiritual life, they can choose to follow the process to opt out of the PSSA for that spiritual exemption. So I know that some parents might especially start for the first time considering that in middle school for that reason. The only other question I had was how many minutes, 45 ELA minutes in 8th grade versus 90 in 7th?
So in 7th grade, they have English language arts and they have academic literacy.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any idea what the comparison point is, what other districts' instructional time in 7th versus 8th might be, even locally, just talking to, your...
I don't. I would have to dig into
Okay,
that.
I was just curious in your digging, if when you did a lot of digging, I thought maybe you would have come across. I was just curious.
I talked to Northern Lehigh when I saw they outpaced us in the building store.
Right.
And they actually have 60 minutes in both math and ELA for both 7th and 8th grade.
Okay.
So they have a very different schedule.
Right. And then the 45 minutes, although we go to block scheduling in the high school, the 45 minutes in 8th grade is mirrored 45 minutes, if you break it down that way, per day for ELA at the high school. It's just that adjustment years.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks. Sure.
Dr. Webb, thank you very much for the presentation, and I really appreciated you starting it with that picture that you had of how many students were there at
80.
the Honor Society. That was so I attended that, and I wanted to thank you. It was a really wonderful ceremony. It was very professional, and it was I'm pretty proud to witness that.
Yeah,
so
one of my favorite nights of the year, for sure.
You did a great job. 3 questions. Can you tell us how is that challenge multiplier calculated, and why was ours lower?
So it's based on the economic, I think it's free lunch. I don't know the exact number, but it's based on how you rate in terms of economic disparity in the district.
Okay, thank you. And then how would you, so with the 45 minutes of ELA instruction in 8th grade, how could you, do you have any ideas on how we could increase the amount of instruction that we have in 8th grade to, either 60 minutes or maybe even 90 minutes?
We've looked at, when I started at the middle school, we looked at ways to revise the schedule, and we are very, very limited because of the amount of things that we offer. So because of the world language, because of the amount of musical offerings, because of we offer STEM, so when I talk to like Springhouse and other schools, they do 6 marking periods a year. And so a student might only have music or might only have gym for 2 marking periods out of those 6. And then the rest of the year they don't. We offer both of those the entirety of the year. We also offer, the second period of the related arts. So the family consumer science, STEM, art, health, those all happen in that kind of second period. So it's we offer a lot, and to fit it all in, we couldn't find a way to make that ELA longer without giving up a world language or giving up a related art, which the students are very invested in. And, some are limited by the state, like we have to have the CTE class to hit the career standards. It's very tricky.
I think you mentioned that there were a number of students who do get pulled out for additional help. What number, like what percentage of students in 8th grade are actually getting more than 45 minutes of instruction?
Yeah, so our reading specialist pulls them out during Spartan period on a 3-day rotation. It depends on whether they hit the like the 30%. If they're below 30%, they get put into the intervention group. And so she pulls them out on a 3-day rotation, except for the week that she goes in and teaches in their class. So we're trying to build in that at least one extra period for every single student of instruction. And then those students who really need it are getting 4 to 5 more periods throughout the week of intervention.
Okay.
Or not through the week, through the month of intervention.
Gotcha. Great, thank you. And then just one last question. Regarding the advanced math offerings within our middle school, can you tell me a little bit about the trends over the past few years? Are we seeing more students involved in those advanced math, or is it the number been about the same?
It's stayed pretty stable.
Okay.
It differs year to year, but not by large percentages. We have tried to kind of work through the data and look at the way that students are recommended for the advanced math. So at the IS, if a student meets the criteria on the 5th grade assessment, I think Mr. McGinty can clarify that, but there's a prereq assessment in 5th grade. If they meet that, they qualify for the 6th grade extended math, or parents can opt them in. Yes?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Common assessments, prerequisite assessment, and star data.
Yes. Then when they come to the middle school, we look at all of that data also, and then we have 2 options, though. We can recommend them for a 7th grade extended or the Algebra 1 class. And based on the data that the students, kind of their portfolio, that's where we make the recommendations. However, we take parent feedback into consideration also. So we have a pretty lengthy review process if a parent disagrees, where we provide them with the data, we sit down and meet. We've looked at students that struggle in those classes when they've been waived in, and we like to give parents that awareness that like National Junior Honor Society, none of the middle school courses are weighted. So if you opt your child into an advanced math and they haven't quite met the prerequisites, middle school is the time to try it. We support that. We'll go with the parent. We just offer a lot of caution because it may be a very stressful transition coming to the middle school already, doing this whole new schedule, and then being in this hard class. So the numbers have stayed relatively stable, give or take a few kids each year. But we are kind of fine-tuning our process constantly to look at the students to make sure they're in the right setting. And then sometimes during the year, we even move them up or move them around as needed.
I really, want to appreciate. I really appreciate the fact that you do take into account parent involvement. Speaking from personal experience, I think two of my 3 kids, at different levels as well, and I think you guys took that into account, and both have been successful. So I think it's great that you do take into account parental involvement as well.
Thank you.
One more comment.
Okay.
No, go ahead. I just wanted to thank you for sharing, too, about your utilization of Title I and how that has expanded into language. So I just wanted to thank you for sharing that piece, because that's important.
Thanks.
I just have one very quick question, but thank you for the detail. Very extensive. When it comes to instructional assistance support, how much of that is based upon the performance criteria and then the instructional assistant coming in and, let's say, swooping in to assist versus a student asking for assistance? Does that ever happen, or is it typically just what you're seeing in grades and performance?
I think that's tricky to answer because most of our instructional assistants are special education instructional assistants. We only have 1 for Title I. So all of the special education instructional assistants have been trained to provide those accommodations and modifications for the students in class. The Title I instructional assistant is in the classes where the Title I students are. And so she waits for the students to ask questions, but if they are struggling or they're not seeming to be on task or looking, distracted or unengaged, disengaged, she will go over and kind of re-engage them or ask if they need help and prompt them. So she's definitely not a swooper, I would say, but more of an encourager or what's the next step? Talk this through with me. What would you do next? What do you think you should do? Yes, that's correct. Because sometimes it's just a lack of confidence and a fear of being wrong.
Right.
So.
And I think one of the challenges for young students, or maybe even older ones for that matter, is the ability and confidence to communicate to the teacher that they need assistance. and making it, let's say, a positive and welcoming environment so that they feel comfortable to come in. Because, again, and I've said over the past 4 years, especially in mathematics, as students get to your school, the farther they get behind, the harder it is to catch up. And it just becomes a snowball effect all the way through the rest of their tenure through school. So, to be able to have that confidence, I think, is just
And it's
critical
also,
for all students, right?
Yeah, much more abstract at the middle school, the math. And so that's a kids get to that developmental level at different times too. So
Thank you again.
thank you.
Thanks.
Really quickly, since you brought it up with the instructional assistant, is there a difference? Could you tell us what the certification requirement is for instructional assistants in general for those programs? And if the certification for the staff member who's the instructional assistant differs when it's going to be Title I versus it doesn't? Or
It
could you
doesn't.
tell us what it is?
For our district, we look for people with a bachelor's degree. They could have also completed a paraeducator program through the IU or be highly qualified. I think Dr. Trinkle can answer maybe. Okay, there's some highly qualified status that they can achieve by completing coursework and programs.
So you go for a best fit depending on that, but the certification is the same, a bachelor's throughout, and then
Yes.
obviously you staff it.
Like for
Yeah.
our Title I, we had math problems that they had to solve
Oh,
and
okay.
teach us how to solve in the interview because we knew that was where they were going to be used.
Okay, thanks.
So, mhm.
Thank you, Dr. Webb.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We're on the home stretch, and don't worry, I have 10 slides. So I like to be efficient, and we'll keep it that way. So my presentation is basically broken up into two different aspects. The public data, which is shown through Future Ready, but there's also a lot of high school data. As we are the final step before our students leave into the real world, there's a lot of things we analyze on a very individual basis that I'll go over next. First, I'd like to talk about something that was already brought up by Dr. Webb and Dr. Solomedo, was Algebra 1 Keystone. This first slide represents what happens for our cohort. So the Pennsylvania Department of Education articulates that all student scores when they are in 11th grade will be combined, whether they take it in 8th, 9th, or 10th grade, and they'll be put in their 11th grade cohort. Based on this information, this is an overall scope of where we are as a district with Algebra 1. As I always like to joke, for some reason the state reads right to left, and that's where the red line is giving us the 41.7 mark. And as you can see from our data, our blue and green greatly exceeds that, putting us in a great state where we are well ahead and at 55.9% of proficient or advanced. Taking away and looking solely at the high school, that number does drop a little bit where we are below. And again, a lot of our high flyers were already taking this in 7th and 8th grade and in 9th grade as well too. So there's a little bit of a mix when you look at just the high school. We're still achieving as an overall district, which is a great aspect, and those students do work their way through, and I'll talk a bit more about where keystones matter at the end. In terms of biology, as Dr. Somel already put out, based on the fact that there was field test items for STEELS, which is the new curriculum that we're going to for the 26-27 school year, the state did not give an official average. We had 60.7. We will say in preparation for this, we did have a couple of our classes work through STEELS-based testing to figure out where we are going to see struggles and try and develop a little bit of an FAQ system with our biology teachers. We're doing professional training for them this school year in order to prepare the students as best we can with the STEELS test coming around the corner. And again, being all online, I'm sure we're going to see a lot of variation in data over the next 2 to 3 years for all schools, just because it's such a drastic change as it was when the first BioKeystone rewrite happened, which was back in 2020 as well. In terms of ELA Keystone, our teachers and our students succeed well beyond the mark. 78% of our students are proficient or advanced. I will say, Dr. Wayak, since I'm one of those lucky people at the end, I get to hear everything ahead of time. In terms of dictation and writing, We do stay away from dictation at the high school specifically for the fact that we want our students to work through that structural piece of understanding the writing aspect to help develop their foundational arguments. We do feel a lot of value in it, so we definitely do stay away from the dictation piece and let them have that be a resource later on after they get through the Keystone when they develop the writing skills necessary to have their arguments well thought out and rounded. So I do get that question about it, but that's something that doesn't come up more till the senior year. And then again, I said for Keystone, we had 78% proficient and advanced. As I said, this is the public data that is shown through Future Ready. But what I really love to dive into is the high school specific data. This is data that shows exactly what we're doing as a school with our teachers. Our first mark is that last year, 97.1% of our students graduated. When you talk about a graduation rate, you also have to talk about deferments through special ed, students who move out of your district, students who withdraw last minute, and of course dropouts. 97.1 put us well ahead of the mark of the state. This is our highest in the last 5 years. And then if you take in our deferments from the previous year and add them to our 5-year average for 2025, we had 97.6% of possible graduates graduate, which is exceedingly high across the state and definitely for the Valley. In terms of post-secondary transition, this is something we do every year in working with our students. While we want them to graduate, we also want them to have plans. We want them to have ideas of where they want to go off to, things they want to achieve. Last year, 68% of our students got into and went into a 4-year school. 17% went into 2-year or technical training schools, leading 85% of our students into a college track. And then comparing that with the military and workforce, military at 2% and guaranteed workforce at 10%, 97% of our graduates last year had a full-fledged plan as well as an implementation process built in, ready to go, so they knew where they were going. Only 3% said, I'm not quite sure, but I'll figure it out this summer. We don't track them down after that, but I'm sure they all figured something out at this point. In terms of other specific data, we have our attendance, and of course I do break in the LCTI as an independent subgroup because we do send around 11 to 12% of our students there overall for the entire school. So we had not 90% looking at solely LCTI. And Mrs. Torba, as you brought up attendance and the challenge, I would like to say that some other factors that definitely do negatively impact our regular attendance is the fact that college visits, vacations, sports tournaments for elite athletes, as well as doctor visits and religious exemptions for holidays all negatively impact our attendance. So even though our kids are attending, we have a lot of valid reasons why they're not attending the building as well too. So that definitely hurts us. And we do have some high-flying kids going off to Florida next week for soccer tournaments. Some are off visiting colleges right now trying to figure out their next path. So those are major aspects as well that do impact our attendance, but we are aware of that and still try and support them in that process. Additional benchmarks outlined by the state that we're required to follow are Act 158 and Chapter 339. We have had a 100% fill rate for state reporting the last 3 years. Chapter 339 is a testament to our K through 8 system of developing artifacts and our CTA teachers of Mrs. Peralta and Mr. Anthony the last 4 years of developing a portfolio plan for them. And then this year we've added Mrs. Russell due to Mrs. Peralta's retirement. She's going to do a great job, I'm sure, filling that void. But we're right on track as well for another 100% in our career and college readiness. And in terms of Act 158, this is a testament to our counseling office. They work to develop one of the 7 pathways for all of our students and get that aligned prior to March of their senior year so we don't have any surprises when graduation hits in May. Other specific things only to our building is our national merit. The national merit, again, is one of the most competitive process where over $25 million of scholarship money is given out. Students have to take the PSAT as a junior. We've had a finalist the last 5 years. We've had semifinalists and commended students. This is extremely rigorous. This is anywhere from the top 16 to 15% of the entire nation for students being able to fall in this category. Some schools, when we get the book, have 0 listed. Some have 20 listed. And again, it's all relative based on the size of the school. A school in Chicago having 25 is pretty good compared to us having a whopping 12, meaning we've done our job. In terms of SAT scores, we're maintaining very solid and positive scores. SAT scores are not published publicly, so if we would do a comparison to other school districts, we'd have to do a call out and work with them independently. This is one where I like to see us compare ourselves year to year. We have seen a little bit of a drop in math, but again, it's not a great dip in terms of 576. That is a great average score, showing our students are ready based on SAT standards with College Board. In terms of AP scores, this is one of the most shocking pieces when we started doing the data. We had 513 tests, not 513 students, but 513 tests taken by multiple students last year. 97.5% of those tests scored 3, 4, or 5, meaning students will receive anywhere from 1 to 3 credits of college credit if they are using them for their college acceptance. We just presented this to the AP teachers, and to go along with Mrs. Torben issuing a challenge, I challenged our AP teachers to get above 97.5%, which this year we have 599 tests already scheduled. So we've already upped the number as well. So if we get 97.5 with 599, I think we've got some good things rolling for ourselves district-wide with AP scores. Before I get into dual enrollment, I apologize. I left one slide hidden, and since Mr. Mond and Mr. Carney are so involved in LCTI, I did want to bring up the LCTI NOCTI scores. Last year we had 52 students take it, which was our highest in the last 3 years. We had 34 advanced, 14 competent, and 4 basic, meaning that we had a little over 92% in competent and advanced in our NOCTI scores. That was our highest year. And if I compare that to 23-24, where we only had 20 exams and we had 75%, last year's LCTI students who were graduating seniors pretty much crushed it out of the park for us as a school representing us at LCTI. In terms of other specific data and dual enrollment, I do bring this up, why this doesn't go directly into any data or any building score. I do share this because we have had a sense of pride the past couple of years with dual enrollment. But I will say, as you can see, we've had a drastic drop. And that is because, despite our best efforts, the ever-changing landscape of college and the moving target of what is and is not accepted feels like I'm at a carnival game and it's rigged against us. We've been working very hard to evaluate what is and is not going to be a best option for our students. So as a preview to all of the board, we will be having some major changes to our program of studies and dual enrollment options because we're looking to find options that are guaranteed transfer, positive for our students, and give them the best option for when they choose their actual college choice, if they so choose so, as well as not hurting our parents' wallets any more than we have to. That is all I have for us at the high school, and don't want to go to Dr. Solomedo's slide for then and now just yet, in case you guys have questions.
I do have a couple. Did somebody raise their hand?
I just have a quick question.
Go ahead.
Just really with regard to dual enrollment. So is your plan to not offer as much dual enrollment, or to still offer as much or more, but just using different programs?
So we're looking at 2 things. One is to slim down to the programs we know are definitely going to matter the most for students. So we will be looking at changing some of our providers. We're also looking at expanding into other venues and see what is actually transferable. As we started our partnership with Kutztown this year and really started to expand it, we realized this one gives us a major advantage and will be pushed more towards our students for the fact that all Kutztown credits are transferable to every PSAC school, as well as Penn State and all Penn State branch campuses, giving our students 42 schools for potential guarantee versus others. Our L-Tri-C partnership will remain one of our founding points. $90 for 3 credits, as well as high transferability to all state schools and many schools not in New Jersey, Delaware, and Virginia. We feel it's a very strong point for us to keep as well. Pitt and Seton Hall are under a large microscope. We want to make sure those are the best options for us. And the University of Pitt has changed some of their requirements for their courses, making them still good at University of Pitt, but not at other neighboring schools. So it's kind of hard for us to put students into a pigeonhole of, well, you got to take this to go to Pitt. So we're definitely looking at it with a microscope as well as Seton Hall.
I've got 3 things. First off, jumping on to the dual enrollment, the next layer down, aside from acceptance of that credit quantity to the institution, is the acceptability into a particular major, which is another challenge. My daughter, case in point, had that issue with something, but that's where I think guidance can help if there's some sort of criteria or table or recommendations to ensure that knowing what major they're moving into after high school, that maybe there's a way to navigate some of that. And it's tough because, as you said, they keep changing the requirements, but, maybe there's something there to help improve that. Who knows? But just a comment from me.
And not to jump too early into my program of studies presentation, which will be in January, we're actively looking about our communication and our thought process for our step-by-steps for freshmen through juniors, involved to course selection here with college selection and
Major.
And how they look at their majors and see what's best fit for them. So we're looking at retailoring some of our communications and our plans to give the students the best outlook for beyond the high school. But that's for the program of studies, and this is about what we've already done. So I don't want to jump too far
For
ahead.
sure. Yeah, just a comment. Next is LCTI. Those attendance numbers seem exceedingly well for CTE. My question is, do you know how that compares to other of the 9 school districts at LCTI? Are they similar or much better? Just curious.
I will say they're probably all the same.
Yeah. Okay.
Our kids who go to CTE love it, and that's what it drives them here. It drives them here, and keeps our attendance high because they want to be there in those programs. They don't want to miss time. So I would say they're probably all in the same realm where they're very high.
Yeah.
I know when I talk with Northwestern Lehigh, Northern Lehigh, their principals, they're in the same boat. Those kids are always showing up. Those kids are always on the bus. Those kids are always there. The larger schools, it fluctuates when it comes to Emmaus and Parkland, just because of sheer volume. It fluctuates. But the kids who are involved in there want to be there, so their numbers are good.
Good. And then last thing, job shadowing. We have that in the school district, which I think is great for students to understand career opportunities and what it's really like. My question is, I think since probably I started, job shadowing changed from on-site to optional or remote phone calls. Is there any intention to change that to motivate on-site job shadowing and get back to, I think, the way it was probably before you were here? Just a question, and if there seems to be a benefit to that. It seems to me, from a business standpoint, it would be advantageous to the student to immerse themselves for half a day or a day.
And we're working really hard in CTA right now, which is our 10th grade course for career exploration. We're spending a lot of time reviewing that curriculum this year with Dr. Solomato and Mrs. Russell and Mr. Anthony, and we're looking at what is the best use of that time. We've started pushing more with Naviance at a younger age group from juniors down to sophomores. Naviance is a wealth of resource that contains personality surveys to help students find a better career path, looking at colleges that associate and align with that. So we've also are trying to work those aspects in where students start seeing this college set is great for me because of these potential careers and the training I can get and understanding of the degrees associated with there. So we're moving that down a little bit from the junior to sophomore year. We haven't openly had a discussion about job shadowing. It's not off the table, but it's definitely something we'll be considering.
Thanks. Appreciate the information.
You're welcome.
Just a real quick point to Mrs. Torba's point. The job shadowing actually counts as a day of absence for them.
It does
Yet
as well.
it was
yes.
a requirement for the class. So if we could fix that, I think that would be great. What's that? You right? But I mean, honestly, I have a 10th grader, so he did that, and I mean, the way I read it, and it could be the way he discussed it with me, but it was pretty much a requirement unless you had a job. So I thought it was a great. It's really a great requirement, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I probably had maybe a dozen or more students at job shadowing, and I think it's a great way for them to figure these things out. I just think it's vitally important to take that step and get the silos to integrate with each other and get that insight.
Agreed.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Just I appreciate the LCTI shout out. I don't know if it was said, but that's where I was coming from. So I appreciate the shout out.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Solobato, it's all yours.
I promise we're on the home stretch, right?
All right. Thank you to the building principals. Fantastic job. I'm glad we got to hear about the PSSAs and the Keystones. Those test scores are important, but as you heard discussed, they're lagging indicators. So students took those in the spring. We didn't get the scores until the summer. At this point, those students that took their tests last year are sitting in the next grade level up in new classrooms this year. So I am thrilled that we also got to hear quite a bit about some more leading indicators such as IXL, STAR, truer measures of how our students are doing on a day-to-day that give us data that really help us plan and support them for their needs in the here and now. So to return to the larger purpose for looking at the data provides us valuable information to drive curricular decisions. And so here what you see on this slide is a comparison of the goals we set forth last year against an update on those goals. So the left-hand side are the some of the big curricular goals we set forth in 24-25 in the yellow, juxtaposed with how it's going on the right in green. So you can see last year we were, a goal of ours was to continue implementation of high-quality instructional resources in elementary literacy, including Foundations, Geodes, Haggerty, Wit and Wisdom. This year we're continuing that, also including some professional development around structured literacy for certain certificated groups. Also looking ahead to an arts and letters implementation, which I can only imagine will continue to build on the great things we've done so far with Wit and Wisdom. Last year, we had a goal centered around math fact fluency for K-6, which involved committee meetings, professional learning for our staff, as well as on-site coaching. This year, we are using that great wealth of research and knowledge that we kind of gathered last year and putting that to work as a part of our math evaluation committee. Right now, we are in the midst of looking at some new math programming moving forward for the elementary level. And so we're going to continue to look at all of that and see what would be best for our students in elementary math moving forward. I will also mention that what we do at the elementary level, of course, in math and in any other area has impacts on the middle and the high. So it really is something that is not just centered around the elementary, but hopefully whatever program we choose and the decisions we make this year will have ripple effects moving forward for our students as they move through K-12. Last year, we also had a goal around our secondary math, which is in place this year and going very well. So that's in grades 6 to 12. You heard some of our building principals talk quite a bit about the new STEEL standards, which, as you know, are in place formally this year. Last year, the PSSA Science and the Bio Keystone were field tests or had field test items. This year, the Science PSSA and the Bio Keystone will be fully STEELS aligned. So we are working this year with our new resources and with lots of professional learning for our science teachers to try and get their kids ready for that assessment as much as they are able. This is a testament to the hard work of our building administration and teachers for operationalizing our vision and goals. This is what we need to do in order for our students to grow, identify the needs based on the data, and take thoughtful action. So similarly, we want to make sure that we are supporting our teachers by giving them not only the materials, but also the professional learning required to help their students achieve and grow to their fullest potential. So shown here are some of the ongoing and future PD initiatives in place based upon curricular need and, of course, what we're seeing in the data. So you'll see here some continued program-specific PD around our Tier 1 resources that we've been putting into place. I mentioned before structured literacy training. That is going to be in place for certain identified certificated groups over a 3-year rotating cycle as required by the state of Pennsylvania. Ongoing PD for our science teachers, I mentioned that a moment ago. We have been doing lots of work around AI, and some of our first steps have been putting into place some professional learning for our teachers. In fact, we have 2 sessions going on tomorrow, one for our middle school teachers, one for our high school teachers around some AI tools and how they can leverage that to, help elevate their instruction. And of course, you know that we are reviewing our elementary programming ahead of that transition to full day kindergarten. So, thank you for your attention as we went through all of this very important information. In the words of Dr. Trinkle, when our students win, we win. And there's a great deal of wins to celebrate here tonight, with more wins to look forward to in the future as we work toward continuous growth and improvement. So thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Salamito and the rest of
Well
staff. Yeah. I just have to say, being an engineer and looking at deltas, look at the delta of where we were 4 years ago with curriculum development and advancement in this school district to where we are now is unbelievable and outstanding. So thank you to all of you for your hard work. It's definitely visible.
Thank you.
Just a quick comment too. One of my sisters used to come home with a poor report card. My mom would always say, "You are more than your scores." And so I'm so glad that when you were talking about all of the things, this was curriculum and our scores, but we also touched on how sometimes we're offering other things that might not show up on scores. Somebody involved in the musical, that might have an impact on academics, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to show up on a test. So I just appreciate not just what we're doing academically, which is important, and thank you also to the teachers, all the committees that are reviewing the curriculum and reviewing the data and implementing what we're asking and always striving for improvement. I just shout out to the educators and the administration too.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say, I mean, I was writing down lots of things here and stuff, but like Josh had said, Mr. Miller had said about being short, sweet, to the point. To me, 93 slides. This is great to see all the details and stuff that goes into it, and kudos to everybody that put that together. But I mean, for those out there that scrutinize how well education is or isn't, to me, the most impactful thing here is, and I wrote it down in 3 bullet points. 1, Southern Lehigh is performing on average well beyond and exceeding those around us in the state and the Commonwealth. Number 2, test scores, and this is just a reminder because it was said tonight, test scores are just a snapshot in time. And just like for those who look at sports, you can have a bad day at the plate, but at the end of the day, how does your career look? So that rolls into what we talked about with the IXLs. Most impactful thing to me, seeing the district progress, is not necessarily the scores. That's just a check mark. To me, it's how are you trending over a year, because that really relates to how are you all, from administration down to all of our teaching staff, how are you performing and how are our kids excelling? So kudos to everybody up here, from Dr. Trinkle to the administration staff to those teachers here and those teachers listening in or those who are going to have conversations at the coffee table tomorrow. Thank you for everything that you all do. Proof is in the pudding. Our kids are excelling, our kids are learning, and we're continuing to grow every single year. So it's nice to see. So thank you.
Well said. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to jump on you, Mr. Boyer. You bring it all together, and it is teamwork from everyone sitting at this table, down to our teachers, to our custodians, to our coaches, to our administrators, and our students. Don't forget, they're a variable in the equation, but it's everyone working together, forging forward with the district goals in mind to make Southern Lehigh be the best version of itself. And all that data highlights all the work from all of those different entities involved.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Trinker, we'll move on, put it in high gear, go into the votes. We've got item 5B, student affiliation agreement with ESU. Like to have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Okay, did you get that, Ms. Lobley? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous, correct? And I'll slow down. No abstentions. We're at item 6A, special education student services. Item A, do I have a motion?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
Ms. Lobley? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? That motion carries. Item 7, technology. We have a motion to approve the purchase agreement with Apple.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Ms. Loby, you got that? Okay. All in favor?
Could I just ask a quick,
Just a quick question.
I'm going to vote
Sure.
yes. I just have a quick question.
Okay,
Could we just
sorry
get a
about comments, questions. Sorry.
You're good. Could we just get a quick thumbnail of what this does as a product for the just
Yes.
the 30-second
It's
version?
the Apple device management for our security. So without this, this would do Apple products, your iPads, your MacBooks, and with it's an automated device management that allows push out globally instead of touching each device individually for any repairs or upgrades or anything like that.
Sure, and software and such. Is that something that needs to be renewed annually, or is that something, was it included with the purchase of the new
It was
equipment?
not. It was not included.
Okay.
When we recognized that, we had to make sure that we had the same amount of devices as connected to this licensing.
So now
And-
all devices are covered, and we'll see this annually?
No,
It-
let me help with
yes,
that part.
yeah.
This is going to be in line with the lease.
Lease.
Because the lease would typically be a 4-year lease, so this would be a component of the lease, and you would see it for 4 years.
Thank you, okay.
This one started out somewhere in the neighborhood of $87,000 or $86,000, but it wasn't tailored for the need of the products that were just purchased, and this will put it in sync with the remainder of the leases. So generally, you would see, with a 4-year lease, you would see a 4-year agreement of the JAMF.
Right. Okay, thank you, because I remember seeing
why
that
it came
before,
down a
and now
lot.
it's
Yep.
duplicative, so I was just wondering what
Moving
additional.
forward, it will be baked into that.
Perfect. I was just wondering about the duplicative
good
nature. Thanks,
question.
appreciate it.
Any other comments or questions?
Are these just for the iPads, or are these for? And I'm just curious as to why the two separate items. If it looks like they're.
No, this covers, as it says, it covers the K-12 Pro iOS, as well
Gotcha.
as the
iOS
iPad
and the Mac
iOS,
OS. Gotcha.
and the
Okay.
tvOS.
Great,
So
thank
there
you.
was there was so many of each product that was purchased in addition to fulfill the total number of units that were necessary.
Gotcha.
So,
Thank you.
So it's not duplicate. It's not a duplicate. It was forgotten. It was not done when they were ordered in the spring. It was an error.
Well, I'm not looking to assign blame. I just remember we saw it before, and I just wanted to see and explain what we're doing again, and I appreciate that. So thanks.
Yep, no, we had 2 weeks of notice of this, and it was not, it was an error.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 8, Business and Finance. I'd like to group A through E. Do I have a motion?
Absolutely second it, or motion it.
Second.
Second.
Could we take the bills list separately, please?
Sure. So we'll take.
So I'll take a motion for
A.
items-
We'll
yeah.
have a motion for 8A, approval of the bills list. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Comments or questions?
I had a question, more towards Lou, I guess. With cyber charter reform, are we expecting savings in the future from some of the prices on here?
that I do not know.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yep.
And as you see, a lot of the large numbers that are with the particular charter schools is because this is catching up billing from July through November. So when you see in the top 10, there's a number of charter schools, but they represent July through November, including regular and special ed. And I think there's about 4 different charters that fall into that category. 7 Generations is the largest. That was 16% of the bills list, and that was $212,000.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ms. Gaiman?
No,
Did
no
you have a
questions.
question on bills?
Nope,
Oh,
I'm good.
Okay. Because I thought you wanted to separate it.
I did.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, did you get that, Ms. Lobley? That motion carries. Items B, C, D, and E. May I have a motion to group them?
So
Motion.
moved.
Second.
Okay. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item 6, Special Education Student Services. Item 9. Oh, sorry about that. I went backwards. I flipped the page. Yeah, we don't want that. My mistake. Item 9, Support Services.
Make a motion to group them.
Yep.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Aye.
That motion carries. All right, Human Resources. Take item A, the Human Resources Report. Motion to approve.
To move.
So moved.
Second, anyone? Okay. We'll have any comments or questions?
I would like to just point out that you'll see on the Human Resource Report a retirement. Lynn Kovisis, our building secretary at the high school, will be retiring after 29 years of service to the district. So just a shout out that thank you for her time and her dedication to the district.
Yeah,
So I wanna really
agreed.
point
Thank
that
you,
out.
and congratulations on your time here.
Yeah, and be sure to give you your well wishes because I believe she'll be done before the holiday break, right? And so she will be missed. 29 years and just a real face at the high school. So be sure to wish her well before the holiday season kicks in.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Right here, abstention.
That motion carries. Item 10B, policy, second reading, number 249 and number 711. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion.
Let her have it, second.
Okay. Comments or questions? Going once. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries unanimous. Okay, we'll get into committee reports. Any committees? I don't think so. No?
I have LCTI. I just came, so I'm going to have to organize my thoughts, so I'll do that another time.
I would just, condense it.
But there's also LCTI Club, a fundraiser at Skateway Thursday, December 4th in Whitehall. Tickets are $7. Skates $3. Theme is Stranger Things. It's cash only. And then secondly, on Wednesday night, this coming Wednesday night, LCTI's National Technical Honor Society chapter is having a fundraiser at Raising Cane's. Don't eat too much because the next day is Thanksgiving, of course. But it's Hamilton in Hamilton Street in Allentown from 4 to 8. They get 15% of the purchase.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it. New business. Anybody?
I'll wait.
Other business. Mr. Carney, I'm sure you have
Just really
other
quickly,
business.
underneath a picture of Jalen Hurts, yesterday's paper is Lehigh Valley Hall of Fame adds 5 new inductees, and Mr. Greenwald is in there, so I saved the article. So congratulations, and then just happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Mr. Mon, I would just like to take a moment. As our meeting concludes, I just want to take a moment to recognize Mrs. Reinhardt, Dr. Wayock, Mrs. King, and Mr. Mon for your 4 years of service. Thank you for your time, your energy, and your commitment to making Southern Lehigh be the best version that it can be. You led with integrity and always put your intentions were always leading with the district's best interests at the forefront. So I want to recognize your 4 years. More importantly, the 2 years, it's been a pleasure to work with you. Personally, you've challenged my thought process and I was able to reflect and ensure that I'm always an independent thinker, and I appreciate the four of you challenging and coming together as a team. You know, the past 12 months have been very trying for the district. We've been through a lot that most districts won't ever encounter in decades. So just want to recognize your work, definitely not only in the past 12 months, 2 years, 4 years, does not go unnoticed. You can look around at the facilities that you were a part of and the curriculum, things that we were presented with today. You too were a part of that. So just want to recognize, and I know there's new board members sitting in the audience tonight. Look forward to next week welcoming you. Some big shoes to keep the teamwork and the momentum moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Torba.
Thank you, Ms. Torba.
Ms. Torba, thank you
Dr.
very
Wayak?
much. Yeah, I wanted just to say a few words if you
Sure.
wouldn't mind. So since tonight is my last meeting, after 4 years as your school director, I just wanted to express a deep gratitude to all those present here, and especially to my family, to my children. When I took this seat in 2021, our kids needed us most, and together I think we delivered. As Ms. Torba said, I am very proud of the last 4 years. A few of our highlights: we led one of the earliest and most aggressive returns to full normalcy in the Lehigh Valley. Masks were off, activities were back full on, sports were on, smiles were visible again, because our kids deserve their childhood to be returned to them as soon as possible. I helped interview and hire some outstanding leaders. Curriculum Director Tara, Dr. Solometto, who we heard from tonight. Middle school principal Dr. Deanna Webb, I was there for her interview. And high school principal Dr. Josh Miller. I think they're great leaders. Mr. Josh Miller, sorry. That's all right. That's all right. Thinking ahead. And then I wanted to mention, I think it was mentioned earlier, our curriculum, which we talked a lot about today. In fact, I think prior to Dr. Trinkle initially and then Dr. Solometto, our curriculum, we had little to no unified curriculum. And then it was great to hear tonight to see kind of the work that's been done over these 4 years and the work that I expect and hope will continue. As you can see, they're passionate about what they do. We delivered a new stadium and turf field on time and under budget, thanks to Mr. Pepe. This has been talked about for decades, and despite stifled planning, we delivered and delivered quickly. I served on the initial facilities committee for 2 years. We finally fixed the crumbling brick facade. I think Stephen played a huge role in that at the intermediate school. Advanced roof, HVAC, safety projects, a lot of that's in motion. And I appreciate what Mr. Boyer's doing, moving that forward, delivering on a lot of this. So we've worked together not just in 2 years, but over 4 years. And we have a lot to be proud of for the safety of our district. I forget, I think Mr. Mon probably knows the exact number that we spent on our improvements. I think prior to our arrival, we had there was really no priority plan for improving the district's facilities. We had spent millions, unfortunately, on kind of planning, but there wasn't any actionable items until over the past 4 years. So I'm very, very proud of that. We launched girls wrestling, both the high school and the junior high, expanding equitable opportunities for girls athletics. I think this entire board here should be proud of that. Made full-day kindergarten a reality with the creative low-cost space solution, and I'm looking forward to seeing that fully implemented. And everyone here, I think that was a 9-0 vote, so we think we should all be proud of that. We kept our property taxes flat for 2 out of the 4 years. Minimal increases, and today Southern Lehigh has the lowest millage rate in the entire Lehigh Valley. We have Mr. Pepe and we have this entire administrative team to thank for that, and that's something to be very proud of, and I hope that that continues. As I think Mel said, we can really consistently put students first. We govern with transparency and we work respectfully despite some attempts to undermine. These wins belong to our community for choosing leaders who didn't just talk about progress, but for those who actually got things done. To my fellow board members, I want to thank you for tough debates and shared victories. We have a lot of shared victories to talk about. To Dr. Trinkle and Mr. Lou Pepe especially, thank you for your leadership and for your partnership. To our entire administrative team and staff, you are the heartbeat of this district.
To the parents of this district, I'd like to just give a shout out and ask them to step up. Please hear from someone who's been in this room where decisions are made. Your voice is powerful, your perspective is irreplaceable, and our schools desperately need you. Don't ever think someone else will handle it. Stay engaged, show up, speak up, even when it's inconvenient, even when people come after your jobs, even when it feels like no one's listening, because eventually they do listen. And when these seats open up again in 2 more years, please consider running. We need more common sense and fierce devotion. Don't sit it out. Our kids need you in these seats. To our students, you were always the why. To my children and my wife especially, you were the reason I ran, and thank you for your support. I leave here tonight knowing that Southern Lehigh is stronger, better built, and more affordable for families than when I arrived. I'll be cheering from the stands from now on, and maybe even giving you 3 minutes, who knows. But thank you, everyone.
Okay, to the administration, staff, board, and all stakeholders, thank you for your tireless work on behalf of our students. It's been an honor to serve along with you over the past 6 months and over the past 4 years as director. I especially want to recognize Dr. Trinkle, our superintendent. In the face of recent challenges, she has demonstrated exceptional leadership, always prioritizing excellence while strengthening our team. I also extend my gratitude to the entire administrative team, whose dedication is essential to the success of the school district. Serving as school board director has been a privilege. I am proud of the strong foundation we have built together, including the successful modernization of our curriculum and facilities, ensuring fiscal stability through balanced budgets, and most recently, the critical work of rebuilding our administrative team. Moving forward, I will continue to support this work personally and through my company. In addition, my roles on the Bucks County Workforce Development Board, Allentown Economic Development Corporation's Bridgeworks Enterprise Center, and the Board of Visitors for Temple University's College of Engineering, my focus will be on connecting our schools to the future workforce. I will continue to champion career awareness for students and families, provide STEM internships, and engage in strategic regional workforce development partnerships. I wish the new board success as they continue our mission, best stated by our superintendent, after Dr. Salamito stole my line earlier. When our students win, we win. Every action we take begins with their success in mind. Thanks. Okay, we have a few things here for information only. We've got field trips and conferences. You can refer to those at your leisure. And sorry about that. I didn't have my agenda here. Yeah, so do we have any visitor comments? No? Okay, no visitor comments. So with that, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second. Any comments or questions on our adjournment? We are adjourned. Thank you.